it's disturbing to hear that some of my little idiosyncrasies could possibly link back to something so icky as cannibalism. But you're absolutely right. Meat is an issue with me, and not actually even because I have moral issues. It just it makes me sick. And so there's a creepiness about it. There's certain kinds of meat that just is like, no, sorry, can't do it.
And this is the story that is consistently found with humanitarians when we listen to their story closely. So here's the end of one era, and here's the birth of a new era, and birth and death are not dignified processes. They're messy, they're uncomfortable, they're painful. And so the humanitarians, the people that didn't get a chance to fulfill their life, make a decision to be reborn instantaneously, and then they go forward and they fulfill these obligations. But the difference is that in palmistry, we say that it is the rarest marking in palmistry, and according to what I'm saying, it's the most common marking.
And you think that's because we're in this time of transition?
Right. So the past life memories of being another race causing them to be reborn. So this year I did a grad night, and I did several grad nights, but out of the grad night there were 3 of the children that were national merit scholars. And so one of them, who I read the newspaper and I remember reading about him, and he was a humanitarian, and what he did in high school is he wrote for a government grant for the youth correctional facility to get money to learn how to do organic farming.
Good for him.
So, and they got the grant, and he starts this project. But the difference is that where these children had died in obscure poverty in Africa, or obscure poverty in South America, or died as being unwanted in China, they were born instantaneously into a situation where they would be able to, through golf courses, private schooling, colleges, be able to become part of the people that are making the decisions that affect the rest of the world. They chose to be reborn into situations where they had more power, they were going to be able to make change, and they were going to make the world a better place. So as long as I've been listening to people talk about 2012, and people have asked me about that, I've always thought, yeah, there's the dying of the old age and there's the birth of the new age, and it's not what you think it is. And it was only after doing thousands of palm readings, thousands, that I finally pieced the story together. And that's the story, that's where we're at. But it is about the fact that the human meat, the core level of issues, that all falls away. What is really important, and being able to take care of everybody on the planet becomes the more primary focus. So it's a much more positive story in the sense that humanity gets a chance to go forward and is healed, but it's a more painful story when you actually look at what had to happen in order for us to get there. Right?
So many thoughts are rolling through my head at this point in terms of how process is affected, or how we are affected by process, and that transitions, like through every door there's a positive, there's a negative, there's a yin and the yang, and so you have to have one thing end before another can begin. So I'm thinking here, well, yeah, the process of growing is painful. When you think about birth, it's painful.
Let's take it back to you, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. Tell me the year you were born.
1952.
1952. So I think when you tell me that, 1952, I think, well, where in the world was there the greatest number of children that died unexpectedly? So
Korea.
So there is all of Asia. Asia is always going to be an ongoing spot. But then there's also Africa and the smallpox epidemic. And then there is, of course, what happened in South America, what was starting to evolve. So you have 3 choices. You can take and spend a year living in Africa, anywhere in Asia, or in South America, where would you choose to live, work, and serve as a humanitarian?
Wow. Actually, probably Asia.
Right. So, but you had said that, you had prefaced that remark when I said to you 1952, and you said Korea. So you specifically know that you died in Korea, and then you were reborn, and then that's the commitment. So what's happened there today? What's happened there today is that women have found out that they were pregnant with a female child, and they've had what's called a second stage abortion, and hoping to get pregnant with a male child. So you were born as a female in this country. So we know that you were we know by the story of Korea, and we know by your story, that you had to be born someplace where you could live out the issues of being a female, and you had to be wanted, okay? So that we're not talking about the emotional or any of those other issues of feeling wanted, because that's something else. I'm talking about in Korea, 1952, a mother gives birth to a female child, and she kills the child on the spot. You decide not to continue on to heaven, or whatever that in-between state is. You decide to be reborn in this country so that you can fulfill what it is that you want to fulfill. And then that's the decision-making process. So now they place into your hand a grace card, and they say, okay, you get to take and do things that help the rights of women and empower women and make women as valuable as men. You have only one obligation, and that is you have to figure out how to give it away. And so when you look at a lot of your struggles and a lot of things that you've done in your life, it always points back to the fact of, does the struggle serve both men and women, and does it prosper everyone involved? That's always what it comes down to when we look at the root cause of your agenda.
Yeah, if we look at what I consider to be my mission in life, it is to empower, especially children, but to empower people. And at least in the early part of my life, women specifically.
Right. So that's your story. But that's what every single person gets when they did not fulfill their past life. But the part of it that's so unique is that 3 schools of palmistry agree on it. They don't agree on any other fact. They disagree on every single aspect of any interpretation of the hands and the feet, except for that one piece. So that's how I know that piece of information is the marker for Jesus's feet, for Buddha's feet, and for telling us the story of when we go into the new era. That's how I tie it together in my mind.
Well, thank you. That makes sense. It makes sense.
Okay.